I'm delighted to welcome Alya Chaudhry to the Dynamic Career Conversations. And as you know, these are a series of conversations that I've been having with people who have made career transitions that people listening and watching this might find inspirational. Alya is an interim transformation director and has set herself up over the last few years as a very successful interim contractor. So I thought it would be really interesting for you to hear about how Alya's done that and what her top tips would be if anyone else is thinking of doing that. So very warm welcome, Alya.
Thank you.
And I think it'd be really nice to start to kind of get a flavour of what your corporate permanent career was like before you made this transition into interim contracting. So could you give us a little overview of your career beforehand?
Yes, well, thank you, Alison. So first of all, can I just say that you sort of set me a high bar. I've got to think of inspirational things to say for the next 20 minutes, which is going to be tough. So if I talk about where I started, so my background is initially software development and project management early on, but I've always worked for consulting or software development houses, or so what I think of as supply side type businesses where you are working for a client. And that, regardless of the fact that I've had a permanent, I've been in a permanent role during a perm salary, that's how I've worked. So sort of the transition from software development, project management in a software environment over to working in a consultancy and then doing more broader consultancy roles, doing more change and transformation programs in blue chips. Around, I think it was about 2010, 2011, I decided that I would want to go contracting. Because I sort of felt that I was doing, that anyway. I was always on client side. I was always operating within a client team. I thought, well, I'd just do this for myself then. And I sort of, and that was quite interesting. So I sort of went ahead and I got a role at Thomson Reuters with some people I knew. And I ended up sort of staying there for about 4 years as a contractor, doing various different transformation program roles, and then got offered a perm role, which I then took. And then, there was a reorganization. I sort of left as part of that reorg and decided to, properly embrace an interim career after that. And the reason I sort of highlight that I had that contracting experience for several years is because I think of that as a sort of a semi-contracting experience. It doesn't really give you that full view of what it is like to sort of be on the market, work for multiple clients and find work and sort of keep yourself sort of occupied in that fashion. So that is sort of the sort of how I landed. And I think part of my feeling about it is that I've had that kind of role and operated in this kind of manner for most of my career. I've just happened to do it under the umbrella of a company, and now I do it sort of under my own umbrella, so to speak.
And so when you left Thomson Reuters and decided, right, this is what I'm going to do now, that I'm going to be an interim contractor, how did you make that transition and what did you have to do to set that up? So
I think again, and the reason I say this with it's like a slightly wry smile is because my experience of contracting in Thomson Reuters was, as I said, easy. I got a role because I knew some people, and then I got to know other people who sort of liked me, so I got other roles. And I actually didn't interview or send my CV out or make an effort to find any work for good 4 or 5 years. It just sort of rolled through because it's a big company and loads of people knew me and liked me. Thought I was a great person to have doing certain things. When I sort of left Thomson Reuters and I was like, I'm in the market, I'm going to go out and find a new role in a new place. I think the first thing that happens to most people, which I thought, I thought I was ahead of the curve on that, is you sort of have this assumption that the world is waiting for you to turn up. So you turn up with your amazing qualifications and your CV and go like, here I am. And people are like, yeah, well, we already got loads of people and we're pretty busy and it's quite a competitive market. So I think it takes, you sort of have to sort of build up from scratch your contacts, your profile, You know, when you start off, if you haven't got a network of people who are in decision-making roles that can sort of give you work or have contacts that who they can recommend you to, you have to build that up from scratch. And I think that's what I did. I've done that over the course of the last 3 years. I've sort of emerged into the market. I have a network of people I know, but the types, you know, when you're sort of starting off, so to speak, you start from scratch. I mean, I've sort of talked to recruiters and started building relationships, and I have built relationships with recruitment companies and agencies over the course of 3 years, where I'm now in a position where when I can ring up, you know, John or whoever it is I know, and have a chat with them, and they are keen to hear from me. They understand what I do. They have a really good idea of the value offer, and they could talk to me about clients they want to put me forward to.
Mm-hmm. And I know you've been very intentional about how you've kept that network alive. So even when you've gone into a project or a contract, you keep in touch with those recruiters that you know are great and are the ones that will help you if you're hiring. But also when you're coming to the end of a contract and maybe ready to start exploring, are the ones that are going to be able to offer you the next great opportunity.
I think when you sort of start an interim career, it's really important to understand that you're a product and you know, you have an offering in the market, and sort of work on developing and being mindful of that development and what areas you want to be in. So it's important to think about where you want to be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line, and then think about the types of roles and projects you want to take that will help you along that journey. If you sort of spend your time, you know, taking the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, you either find yourself being sort of flatlining in a particular space, or it sort of becomes a little bit difficult to sort of create that articulate value proposition and that journey that you need. I mean, you can manage an interim career similarly to how you manage a permanent career. You can have a growth mindset. You should be looking to do more interesting things, bigger things, or whatever it is that's important to you as part of your interim journey, and not regard it as a, you know, I sort of do the same thing over and over again. So a growth mindset, I think, you know, where I worked with people, I've seen people who have a growth mindset really sets them apart from people who sort of, you know, here to just do the next thing.
Sounds like what's striking me there is that looking at this growth mindset and the development, not just from, you know, you going in, delivering an assignment, getting paid for it, but also you growing in your experience, learning new things, all of that kind of thing.
Yes, and the thing is that, you know, when I started my sort of second phase interim career 3 years ago, I sort of looked at everything I had on my CV and sort of worked out where I could position myself and what I could offer. I had to look at myself as a product I was trying to sell. I know it sounds quite cold, but that's the only way to do it, is to go like, okay, what do I have? Let's forget about what I wish I had, etc. This is what I've got. This is in my kit bag. How do I sort of highlight the things I can bring to it? And then you've got to go and try and see what people want to buy in the market, right? So, and you know, it's a bit of it is luck, it's a bit of it is who you know, right place, right time.
What would you say generally then, for anyone considering becoming an interim contractor, the kind of pros and cons of this career path?
So, I mean, I suppose, look, I love being an interim, and it is, I think, the right choice for me. So it is, you know, I sort of love sort of having control over my own destiny. But then control over your own destiny comes with control of the responsibility for your own destiny, right? So I do have to, you know, between roles, do have to get myself up and out of bed and go, you know, get myself a job, or find a role or do something. I can't rely on my manager or my team or my company or whoever it is, you know, doing stuff for me. That's my own job, and I do well at certain parts of it and very badly at others. So that's one thing. So that, you know, it's a mindset, and it's whether you want to be that. You want to be that person. It can be. So you have, you know, the financial rewards, you know, everybody talks about they can be better, but, you know, if you have like gaps between things, you know, that, you know, sort of balances out. So you've got to think about, you know, how much risk you're prepared to take and how much effort you're prepared to put in around your projects to make sure you've got your runway of new work coming in. But as I said, it gives you control. I mean, you know, nobody is, I'm not going to find myself reorganized and put into a role I don't want to put myself into because somebody else chose to do that because it makes more sense for them. I can go. I'm here. I deliver a program. I give you, I sort of make sure I do the right thing for you. I build a good relationship with you, and then I move on and do that for somebody else. So I sort of own my own. Yeah, I'm just thinking I'll keep going. I'll have control of my destiny. And that's really important to me. It also allows me to do, it's a bit more of a portfolio thing. I can do two things at once. It gives me that variety. I like working for different clients. I think I was going to talk about the flip sides of it is, it can be lonely. So I think one of the things that you could think about is it can be lonely. Like let's look at lockdown right now, right? So we've been in lockdown for pretty much most of this year. And the thing that has, my sort of program, as I've been very busy and I have a massive team of people and, who I have a great relationship with. And that's kept me going. I've had loads of people to interact with and talk with and work with all the way through this quite weird time we've been in. And if I wasn't that, then I would be sort of by myself, at home, sort of, doing small projects or, working in a singleton manner. That can be really, really hard. So it is harder. I think there's that loneliness and that connection with people can be harder to maintain. It's sort of like when you're in a particular role in an organization, you can go to work or, do your Zoom call and see the same people every day and have a long relationship with. I have, deep relationships with people for short periods, 6 months to 18 months, will have very intense work relationships. It sounds quite dodgy, doesn't it? But that's it's a very, very normal relationship where you work really hard, you get to know somebody super well, and you socialize, you work together, and then literally you come to the end and you all disperse, and then you start again. And those connections, that contact, those friendships do remain, but they don't go forward, in the same way. You sort of come together a couple of years later, So I think that's for me. That can be hard.
Yeah, both sides of the coin. Thanks for sharing that. And you've mentioned a couple of times, Alya, that interim contracting really suits you. What would you say it is about your personality traits, your preferences, that means that you're so suited to this career?
I like doing different things. I like new environments. I like to meet new people. I like to see new challenges. And I fundamentally like the bit, which sounds quite masochistic, the really difficult bit, where you're sort of taking something that's really hard and you are, you sort of really stand it up, make that change, make it better, grind through the really tough decisions. So the program I'm sort of on right now has been, coming to the end of an 18-month assignment. When we started, the sort of the first 6 to 10 months were intense and hard, and you learn so much. And now we're sort of in the, in the sort of the end and the close down and the rolling the team off, etc. And it's not as interesting. And therefore you sort of go like, I do want to go and do a different thing. And if I just was, working at this company, I would probably take a similar team and continue to do the same thing. But it wouldn't be as stretchy for me, I suppose. And I think I have a good understanding of risk, and I think I sort of manage risk quite well. So on both personal level and project level. So, and you have to have that mindset that sort of understands, how, what your gap periods are going to be between projects. That has the ability to be emotionally comfortable with that space and understand how you're going to, make things work for yourself.
Great, thank you for that. And finally, what would you say for anyone watching this that is thinking, yeah, I'd like to explore becoming an interim contractor? What advice would you give them?
So, well, I suppose it depends on where you are in your career. So there's two things. I mean, I think you have to have a financial cushion. And we talked about that a little bit. You do need to sort of be, whether you have money in the bank or your partner has a role, or your family, or or whatever, that has something where you have that ability. One of the first, my interim career number one, you know, my husband was able to support us if I wasn't working. And I sort of had a commitment with him that I said, look, I'm going to leave, I'm going to try, I'm going to go out on my own, and I'm going to give it 3 months to see if I can find something as an interim or as a contractor and see if I make this work. And if I can't, then I'll, I'm confident I can get another job doing what I do. So I'll just go back on there. So I sort of had that kind of conversation. So you do have to make sure that your family, your personal circumstances allow you to do that. And I think that is really important. I think the other thing to understand is that as an interim, people are, I know we talked a lot about growth and development, but that's your personal responsibility. Your client is not going to hire you into a growth role, right? When your client is going to hire, they are hiring somebody who can already do or demonstrably has already done a lot of what they're hiring you to do. So that means that sometimes, say you're a Salesforce CRM project manager, you will just keep doing Salesforce CRM project management roles on repeat, because once you've done 2 of them, then people really want to hire you for the next one. Suddenly you'll have done 4 of them, and people will really want to keep hiring you for that. So I found earlier on, and I had always had this policy that I would sort of jump between different types of roles to keep moving my career up. I think if you go into an interim role too early, without enough of a depth and background, you will sort of pigeonhole rapidly into whatever the last thing it is you did and what people hire you for. So you will sort of stay there, and sort of going from there to a bigger role is really hard, because, as I said, people hire you on a day rate to do something you demonstrably can already do, not to be that great person who will grow into the role, because they're actually paying quite a lot of money for you to come and deliver something for them. So it is important to have that. So again, so to bear that in mind, and depending on where you are in your career and what you want to do. And it's perfectly possible to, well, at least I found, to go from, full-time work to consultancy work to interim work to consultancy work to full-time. You think of yourself as, in progression, as opposed to, now that I'm a contractor, I can never do full-time work again. Of course you can. Sometimes you just think of it like it's a holistic thing. I have never actually said to anybody at any point, even now, that I wouldn't take a full-time role. I always say, people that, would you consider a full-time role? I'm like, yes, I would. Depends on what the opportunity is, what they're asking me to do, and obviously what the package is. And that, you just have to be open to those, because you never know, something really exciting might come along, and it's there as a full-time role, and you think, no, I really want to do that. I really would make a difference. I love the person I'll be working with. I love the ethos of this company. I can really do this. And full-time roles don't have to be like 20 years of your life. They can be 2.5 years. It's a good amount of time. And then in that company, you can say, I'm not going to grow any further in this role. You can't offer me another growth opportunity. Let's do something different. Let me hire my replacement for you. Let me move on and do something as an interim, and you take all the experience with you. So, it's just thinking of yourself as a portfolio, and thinking of these full-time contract, fixed-term contract, all these things. Just think of them as ways of contracts, really. They're all contracts in some way, shape, or form. They're just packaged slightly differently. I love that.
I love that idea of the portfolio. And I heard someone say recently, don't think of your job or your career as a job or career. Think of it as a number of projects that you're working on.
Exactly. But no, I think I genuinely agree with that. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and I was like, you've got to believe in yourself. You really have to believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, who is going to believe in you? It's like I'm going to get a mug. I'm going to have my own line of mugs with cheesy sayings of this kind.
I'll definitely buy those.
Just like, it's good. You've got to, as an interim, as a person, putting yourself out there in this fashion, you have to believe that you've got something to offer the world. But all of us have to do that. But I think, as an interim, you're sort of a bit more front and center, aren't you?
Great. Couldn't agree more, Alya. I think that's a great point to finish the conversation. But thank you ever so much for sharing all that rich advice and top tips for anyone that's considering going into an interim career, and sharing how successful you've made yours and how you've done that. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm not sure about successful. I just think, I think there's consistency is what I'd be going for at this stage. You judge success at the end.